Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Faith Gateway author chat. I'm your host, Sammy Cohn. I'm the chief curator of the family section on FaithGateway.com, and I'm so excited to be welcoming Jim Daly, author of The Good Dad. And I hear just the head guy at Focus on the Family. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, that'll do. That's no problem, Sammy. Good to talk to you.
I'm so excited we got you here today, and I want to talk about The Good Dad, and we want to mention to everyone joining us today that there's a special discount code we have. So if you have not gotten a copy of The Good Dad yet, head on over to the store at faithgateway.com, and we've got an extra 25% off for you, which will make it 40% off the book when you use the code JD25. We'll have that up for you later too, but I want to mention that if you want to go grab that discount. And also, you can join in our chat just by tweeting us at Faith Gateway using the hashtag #TheGoodDad. So that in mind, get those tweets rolling. But Jim, before we start taking some of our audience questions, can you just tell us a little bit about why this book? Why now? You do so much at Focus on the Family. What was the impetus behind The Good Dad?
Well, Sandy, for me, The Good Dad, I was writing it from my heart. That's a theme that is so close to my heart and so fun to write about because I've got two sons. They're almost 14 and 12. And it's just out of that passion that I wanted to write a message about fathering. And partly because, you know what, I just had cruddy dads. I had three dads particularly. I had a biological father that was an alcoholic. I loved him. He loved me, but, he just couldn't keep it together. My mom divorced him when I was 5, and then I had a stepfather who walked out the day of my mom's funeral when I was 9. They'd been together maybe 2 years. Then I was in foster care, and the foster father that I was living with, along with my brother and sister, claimed to the social worker that I had tried to kill him 6 months into it. And so I'm 9 and a half, and those were the three dads that I had. So when I look at it, yeah, this burns in my heart. I think we can overcome these things in a relationship with Christ, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, let's get right to that. That was one of the things that just shocked me when I read the book. I didn't realize the past that you had, and obviously I won't say the irony, but obviously that fuels your passion for what you do now as president of Focus on the Family. But you had a quote in the book that really stood out to me, and you said, "Do you want to know how important a father is? Ask the guy who doesn't have one." And that was so telling to me. Can you tell us a little bit more, because obviously Father's Day just passed, and it's a time of celebration. Obviously there's so many of us that aren't celebrating, whether it's because we just lost a father or, like you said, had an absent or might as well have been absent father. What do you hope to communicate to those people that just say, I don't even know what a good dad is? What would you say to them?
Well, I think the big theme in the book is, for Christians particularly, let's not lean into excuses. We may not have had a good father. We may have had a pathetic father.
Yeah.
The funniest thing when I'm thinking about the good dad, our Father in heaven has nothing but wayward teenagers. I mean, that's what he deals with every day. And so that thought struck me when I was writing the book. I was thinking, just talking to the Lord as I was working on it, thinking, okay, Lord, you definitely understand what it means. And I think fundamentally for me, the point I was trying to get across is you got to love your kids. I mean, and your spouse, obviously, and we'll get to that a little later. But I think that brokenness, I opened the book up, chapter 1. I'm talking about my experience in high school playing football. I was the quarterback of the football team, but the lack of confidence started right there on the field. I mean, I felt like I had the physical ability to do it, but I did not have the head to do it. I didn't have the confidence, and I think that's what a father would have provided me. I think I really lacked that. And particularly, we had what we called Father's Night. One Friday night out of the year that we all stood out on the field about 3 yards apart, and they would call each player's name and each dad's name. And, I think twice in my 4 years, I remembered to think of somebody to be my stand-in dad. The other two times, I just forgot. I was a typical high school kid, and they'd call my name on the field, Jim Daly. Jim Daly's dad is not present tonight. And it became just a metaphor for my life, no dad present.
I'm glad you shared that story. I was going to bring that up because that was such a huge moment. You could tell what an impact that had on you. And I think you also went on in that chapter then to talk about, there were only, I think it was 2 or 3 of you mentioned that didn't have a dad. Everyone had someone there, but if you were to go back to, your high school today, it would probably be more like 20 or 30 might not have. I mean, the statistics you share in this book are staggering. Could you share a little bit about some of that research you found and kind of do that comparison and contrast of what you saw back, like you said, when you were in high school versus what we're dealing with today when it comes to this epidemic of fatherhood?
Yeah, when you look at it, I mean, I think the culture, for some good reasons, we've put a lot of emphasis on women. And when you look at it, there's been great strides made in terms of women working outside the home, women being able to pursue their dreams and their goals. And I don't begrudge that. My wife did her degree in biochemistry. This is the era that we live in as this generation. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to pursue their dreams. The difficulty in that, I think, for men particularly, is we lost ourselves along the way. We're not sure who we are, what we do. So when I was working on the book, I wanted to take a look at the damage being done. We undervalue the importance of fatherhood when it comes to the family. Usually on television it's buffoonery, but in reality, when you look at the stats, I mean, the one that got me, 85% of men in prison did not have a dad in the home when they were growing up.
Wow.
85%. When I talk to the president or former presidents and we're talking about that issue, you're looking for a silver bullet. What's the least amount of effort that we could put forth to bring about the greatest amount of good? Hey, that's one thing. Get dads engaged with their families. And so the other indices that were included there in the book, I think it was 63% of teen suicides occur where a dad is not in the home. I think 73% of at-risk behavior in teenagers, sex and drugs, and alcohol. 73% of those kids involved in those at-risk behaviors don't have a dad involved in the home. So when you start looking at it, the very things that cost the culture so much, it's rooted in the fact that dads are not present. And I think that research is overwhelming now.
Yeah, I think you said 15 million children are living without a father in their home, which is just staggering. And you follow it up by saying that it's easy, it's easy to become a dad, but that doesn't mean it's easy to be a dad.
Well, tongue in cheek, I say, it takes seconds to become a father, but it should take a lifetime to be a father.
Right. So, and I'm glad that you brought that up about the role of women, because as a woman, I really appreciated reading the book because it let me reflect on so many things, both from my own childhood with my father and then with my husband and what he's going through and what he's striving to be as a man. What do you think, if you could boil this all down, if we've got someone that's listening right now and just says, what is it all about? What is it that you're really hoping to convey with this when it comes to fatherhood? What characteristic is it that you really want to communicate in terms of fatherhood?
Well, the main one is love. I think dads, and even in the Christian community, toughness is what we're about. We're tough on the culture. We're tough. And if you show any weakness, you're deemed weak. But you look at what Jesus did. You know what? When he walked around, I bet he got that all the time. How come he didn't punch Caiaphas? How come he didn't go after Pontius Pilate in a more manly way? And I think we've got to discern what the Lord was modeling for us, not only as simply Christians, Christian men, but Christian fathers. And when I look at it, some of the models that I've seen, and I reference that in the book, Danny Vandenhever from South Africa, just a beautiful dad, a wonderful temperament. And I watched his son, I quoted in the book because it was so beautiful. I watched his son one day. He had 3 sisters, this boy Rudy, and Rudy was being a little nasty with his sisters. And Donnie just said, "Hey, Rudy, come here, son," in that great South African accent. And he said, "Boy, come on, what's happening? Why are you doing this? What happened to you at school today? What was the problem? What did you learn from your mistake today?" And you know what? And he would end it with, "Rudy, I love you. Don't be a naughty boy." But it was wrapped in such grace, and he got his point across. It wasn't a fast fist in his face. It wasn't a finger-wagging moment. Donnie was able to get his point across, ensure to Rudy that he loved him, but still hold him accountable to his behavior. That is the point of the book.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think as men, I would imagine there's a struggle. I know my husband deals with it in terms of being what is typically thought of as father, as the disciplinarian, as the, wait till your father gets home. Like you said, there's a certain amount of, bravado, I think, to being the tough guy. But at the same time, in a sense, we've demasculated, I'm probably not saying it right, but demasculated our fathers and kind of said, no, you've got to be gentle and sweet and caring. How would you coach, modern day dads, so to speak, on how to still have the authority while still showing that, kind of like you said, that sweeter side or that,
Yeah. Well, one of the things I use that analogy of the tetherball. Yeah, we all play tetherball in elementary school. I'm sure it's a big ball cemented to the ground, and you're winging that ball around, and we would call the person ropesies if you grab the rope and threw the ball. You always had to hit just the ball. But it's such a good metaphor because I think the parent is the pole, the ball is the child, and that line that holds that ball to the pole is the tether. And I think in the metaphor is love. And no matter what you do, what I'm discovering is that God has wired us in such a way that we respond to love and respect. And you see that at the marital level, in your marriage, when you're wagging your finger at your spouse and you're in their face or you're upset or you've got a bad attitude, you're moody, that spouse shuts down. In fact, in men, there's a gene, the SRY gene. It's the fight or flight gene. That's where we back off. If you're hounding your man to be engaged with the kids, why aren't you leading better spiritually? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? That gene is taken over, and what that does, we retreat, we get quiet, we withdraw from the conversation. Because you know what? Men like to measure up. What woman doesn't know that? Men like to measure up in every way. And when we don't, when you're honest, when you're convicting us of not measuring up in your eyes, we feel bad. We feel bad when we're not perfect. And I think in that parenting space, when mom hits it so wonderfully all the time, she's always hitting the bullseye. She's mom. She knows the boo-boos before they happen. She puts the arm around you. She makes the goodies that put a smile on your face. She's just warming your heart all the time. And then there's dad. What is dad bringing to the table? Like you said, discipline. He's mad at me. I didn't make the grade he thought I should make. It's that kind of thing. You've got to counter the important negatives that need to be discussed. You got to put 10 bricks of good for every one bad brick. And so a dad, we've got to concentrate on that. We've got to intentionally fill that person's heart, our son or daughter's heart, with love, so that when we have to do the reprimand and straighten out the kinks, they'll respect you, they'll get it, and they still love you even though you're telling them the truth. So
I love it.
Yeah.
That's important. I love it. Jim, we've got a Twitter question. Before we do, if anyone's just joined us, I want to remind you we're having a live FaithGate author chat with Jim Daly, author of The Good Dad. And for the next 48 hours only, you can head over to our store at faithgateway.com. We've got a special discount for you. That's right. For 48 hours only, 2 days, you can get The Good Dad for an extra 25% off when you use the code JD25. Make sure you, again, take advantage of that while you can. That's going to be for a total of 40% off because it was already on sale. So wanted to mention that. Jim, let me bring this tweet to you from Ice Luke 714. He says, the quote about being the hero, Dad, or the hero God called us to be, hit me hard. Can you elaborate a bit? I want to be the hero for my family. Oh, I love hearing that.
I love it too. And you know what he's representing there? I think every man wants to play the part in Braveheart. We want to be that guy. We want to be the warrior. We want to be the guy that goes out and saves the day. The difficulty in the culture now, and the way things are structured, mowing your lawn on Saturday doesn't make you feel like a hero, or cleaning the garage doesn't make you. There's no big battle happening right there in your front yard.
Right.
What we've got to realize as men, the hero happens every day, and the Scripture I think is pretty clear. It's about laying your life down and giving. So many authors have talked about how the benefit of sacrifice and how that helps build your your sense of self and well-being, and just makes you feel better when you're giving. And somehow we have to reconnect that within the family structure. It's not a place to fight. Certainly there's going to be disagreements. The family structure, I think, was created by God to learn sacrifice. Husbands, men sacrificing for their families, being the hero every day, so that, you know what, here's a story. Let me illustrate it with a story.
Yeah,
in the book
please.
I talk about this. There was a youth pastor with a 4-year-old daughter, and he was busy as could be, probably working 80 hours a week, and on the weekends he was running up doing outdoor retreats with the teenagers, coming home, taking a shower, and on the way out the door he was going back to a nighttime event at the church, and he said to his daughter, "Hey, pray for me, honey. I'm going to help lead some of the teenagers to Jesus, or share Jesus with them." And his little 4-year-old daughter looked at him and said, "That's good, Daddy. When are you going to stay home and share Jesus with me?"
Oh.
Imagine as a dad, as a parent, as a mom, hearing your 4-year-old daughter say that. To this guy's credit, he took stock of where he was at in life. He quit the pastorate. He got a job at GM as an assemblyman, and got home at 5:30 every night so that he could spend that time with his kids. Now that's radical fatherhood. And I applaud him for it. It's not bad. I mean, here he is coming out of ministry. You can always, we're here at Focus on the Family. We can always justify spending 80 hours for God, and maybe that's not enough. Lord, I want to give you 100. But your family's dying on the vine. I don't think the Lord is honored in that kind of neglect and abuse. And I applaud the guy's decision.
Yeah, Jim, give us, I appreciate the straight talk. I feel like you can deliver this straight talk in a way that doesn't seem condemning or judgmental, and I think we all, not just dads, we all need to hear that. And I think a lot of times as women, the moms get it's hard to balance, it's hard to juggle. I don't know if dads get that sympathy enough of it's hard to, go and be the provider, but also, like you said, not leave your family hanging in the lurch. What advice do you have for men that are really feeling that tug of, well, I've got to provide for the family, so I'm gone. Do I become that radical dad you just spoke of, or how do I still model that if I'm, not in the home as much as my wife is?
Well, and that's fair. That's one of the things. Dads typically, not always, are the major provider. I know that's changing in the culture today, and husband and wife have to work that out. But Mark Gungor is hilarious when it comes. He's a pastor out of Wisconsin who talks about the differences in the male-female brain. Many authors have done this, but I love Mark's approach on this. He talks about the male brain being compartmentalized, and the female brain is just wired. It's integrated. It's both halves are working. And a man's brain, and it's true, physiologically, we get a testosterone wash in the womb, and it damages some of the synapses of the brain between the two spheres. So we're literally, when you talk about men using half a brain, it's true. But I think the Lord did that for a very specific purpose. The strength of a man is being able to compartmentalize. That's why emotionally we can get through some pretty difficult moments. We buckle down, the old saying, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you get moving. Men in battle have been able to demonstrate that kind of focus, that we compartmentalize, people dying all around us, but we stay concentrating on the mission. I think the complement to that is a woman who's firing on all her cylinders. Her brain, she doesn't have a nothing box, as Mark calls it. Wives will go to their husbands and say, they're just watching news, weather, and sports. Click, 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 or Duck Dynasty, or whatever it is. And their wives will say, "What are you thinking about right now?" And the husband will say, "Nothing." And they're going, "No, that can't be." And, I think it's true. And so the point of that, in answering your question, I think men have a strength that we can focus and compartmentalize our emotions. The difficulty is when we lock the drawer and we don't want to get out. And again, condemnation, not measuring up, tends to push us in that direction to withdraw from the family. So again, my advice for a wife and mother to encourage husband, father to be more engaged, talk gently to him, talk encouragingly to him about what he could do to improve some of the things that you would like him to see. Condemning doesn't work. And getting back to that analogy of the heart, when I started to talk about that working in a marriage, think about teenagers. When teenagers shut down, they're usually shutting down because their heart is closing. When you're, again, on them about their report card, you're on them, on them, on them. Gene and I, to be completely blunt, I mean, with our almost 14-year-old, it's like, where we failed in parenting, he got a D in math. And, you know, going in and talking to the junior high principal is great, because he's going, you know what, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. To which my wife was like, really, he's not going to be an axe murderer? And I'm laughing, because this is junior high. And if he's going to fail there. Right. And I don't mean just grades. I mean emotionally in other ways. Have them fail early so they can succeed later. You don't want them to fail later in life in that way.
That's so good. You know, you stole my thunder. I thought I was going to put you on the spot. I was going to ask you and mention you do have a teen and a preteen. So I was going to have you share some of your stories, not just out of the book, but you kind of did that for us there. But, you know, we always hear, oh, those teenage years. You know, what was there ever a moment when you were writing this book where you're like, who am I to write this book? I mean, I've got this going on at home. What can you tell us about what you're going through right now with your boys?
I mean, that's some of it, and I love it, because experientially the tip of the pen for the book is white hot. So although I'm not completely through it, I see what's coming. And I think fundamentally what's happening, and you know, psychologists support this, in those teen years, your child is trying to separate, to create their own identity. They want to be understood. They want to be heard. They want to be treated like an adult. And of course, you know, they're not. They're saying now with MRIs and other things medically, they can take a look at the human brain, and the male brain particularly doesn't fully form until about 23, 24. So now some parents are going, okay, I get it, now that explains it. But you know, they want to have that recognition, but they're still forming, and you've got to do that. You've got to engage them in a way that doesn't close their heart down. And that's the main theme of the book. Don't close your teenager's heart down. Even if you got to deal with some heavy stuff, be engaged, do things that they enjoy, be present. I asked my boys the other night, I said, you know, how many hours a week do you guys think I spend with you? And I think on average now, it's somewhere around 8 hours that a day might spend. That's up significantly. Some dramatic statistics have been like 3 minutes a week on average. A dad spends meaningful time with their son or daughter. Now, that always seemed suspicious to me. But I love my boys' response. They started adding up the time. Well, every night from 6 to 8, you're with us and playing with us, and you know, weekends. They came up with 15 hours a week that I'm spending with them. And you know what? You just got to do some things to create the room in your you know, your schedule. For me, I get home about 5:30. I spend the time with them. I don't turn TV on. We don't have cable. I know people are going, "What? You don't have cable?" You know what? I am a TV junkie, because what I do is I watch sports, and guess what? Sports are on almost every night now. You can get home and watch the NBA Finals. You can watch, you know,
the
World
Cup.
World Cup is on right now. Or you can just get lost in sports, not to mention news. And so, what does a good hero dad do? Lay it down. You know you got an appetite for it. Don't be addicted to it. Lay it down. Cut the cable company off if you need to. And then you spend 6 to 8, 6 to 9 with your kids every night, helping them with homework, being engaged, throwing a ball. It's a lot of fun. And you know what? When you come home, your kids will run out the door to be with you. That's what I love. Focus on the family. We do a lot of fun stuff. We're saving lives and helping people. And I get home at night. It is the best time of the day for me. I get home, I get out of the car, and my boys literally run out the garage door to meet me. That's the best part of my day.
Love it. Love it. That's awesome. Well, you're doing such a great job of taking us through your perspective as a dad. What do you think you can offer now that, obviously in the beginning we talked about kind of the absentee father, you know, father figures that you had. What did you learn now that you or that others can apply towards thinking about their own fathers? What lessons have you learned kind of retrospectively now that you could offer for those of us that still have our fathers, or for you know, that we, those lessons that we may not have gotten from our fathers but now can learn in terms of, you know, kind of rekindling that relationship if it's been broken?
I think the first is forgiveness. I mean, no father is perfect. And guess what? As a father, you're not going to be perfect either. And one thing, when you become a father, you want that kind of grace extended to you. One of the amazing things for me that I saw right on my child's face, Trent, I would go into his bedroom, after a time when I may have given him a sharp word or, reacted in a way that wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go up to his room and say, Trent, man, I'm so sorry that I said it that way. I didn't mean to react like that. And to see him smile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a smile. The first time I did it, a smile broke out on his face. He just looked at me and said, "That's okay, Dad. I know you had a hard day," or something like that. To keep that kind of communication open is critical. But I think, especially for us with our own fathers, I think forgiveness. I have a story in the book where a woman who had been estranged to her father for about 25 or 30 years, I mean, 3 decades. She's in her 50s. And she writes a note, and it led to a letter that she tucked inside the card because her heart just poured out for her dad. And she wanted to have a relationship once again. And she was brokenhearted that her pride and some of the stubbornness that she had prevented that from happening. So she sent the card off to her dad, and she got a call, 3 days later, and it was a family member saying, "You know what, your dad has passed away. Your card was in the mailbox still. It was never opened." I mean, so, I used to say it's never too late. In her case, it was too late, so I stopped saying, do what you can today to rekindle and revitalize that relationship with your own dad or with your son or daughter if it's that direction. Fundamentally, that's, I think, what Christ would want you to do.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. Believe it or not, Jim, we just have a few minutes left. And so I want to give you an opportunity to really just speak to our audience. What are some of those things that as a father, not only that you want to be pouring into your own 2 boys, but what are some of those things that you could just, if you could just speak to all of our listeners and viewers right now, can you help them with some of those words that our children just really need to hear from their dad, or maybe some of those things that they really should be modeling that might seem basic to us, but someone else just really needs to hear that reminder right now?
Yeah, I think, for me, what I missed as a father and what I try to do because of what I missed as a son without a dad, those were models for me. So when I thought about being a father, when Trent was born, I held him all night. The first day of his life, I prayed over him. I talked to him, rocked him in the rocking chair. But what really struck me is what I didn't have. And I committed that night to have my children, no matter the number, that I would always tell them every day that I loved them and that I was proud of them. And I think that's core, and not in a way that was insincere, but very sincerely to do that. I think it's helped my boys' confidence immensely, something I didn't have. And so that'd be one thing I'd really encourage. And then live it. Today as Christians, we're pathetic at living the Christian life. And it's hard, but do it. You're going to fall down on some days, and then just get back up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to act out of anger or out of a short-sightedness. That's okay. Ask for forgiveness, get up, and do better. And I think the core thing is that time. Spend time with your kids. Let them know who you are. Keep communication open. Love them. Tell them you love them. If you're more introverted, find ways that fit your personality, whatever that might be. Write them a note. Be physical with them. Hug them. Make sure that they feel your presence. And I think if you do those things in the troubled times when they come, you'll be able to get through it.
Can't think of any better way to end that. I feel like I need to let you go home and go hug your boys. Go wrestle with them, Jim.
It's sock fight night, so I'm getting home and we're gonna have a good war of sock fight.
Okay, I can't wait. Now I can't let you go. So what exactly is a sock fight? Now you just open the door back up. Yeah,
there's usually like the clean hamper that's full of clean socks, and we ball them up mostly in pairs, not always. And we just go down the basement and have a thorough sock fest, and we try to duck and hide, and then we gang up on each other. It's a lot of fun.
I still have the brave heart in my mind. I was picturing stuffing things in the socks and kind of like slingshotting them across the room.
Yeah, no rocks in the socks.
No rocks in the socks. Okay.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much. I want to remind everyone again, of course, thank you for joining us. We'll have this link live on faithgateway.com soon so that you can watch it again and get some of these good nuggets. Of course, you're going to want to get the book, The Good Dad by Jim Daly. Head on over for the next 48 hours only. You're going to get that extra 25% off with the code JD25. That'll bring it to a total of 40% off. Again, only for 2 more hours. We've been speaking with Jim Daly. Again, that that guy over in the Focus on the Family offices, that guy, that president guy, something like that, right, Jim? I expect you to change your business cards now just to say that guy.
That guy. A guy, just a guy.
A guy.
It's all a team effort.
Well, thank you so much for leading that team. We appreciate all you do. We thank you for writing this book and for championing fatherhood and again, just being one that shares an example of what that needs to be. Thanks so much, Jim.
All right. God bless you all.
Thank you. And we hope you'll join us for our next author chat. We'll see you next time here on Faith Gateway. Bye-bye.